listening to Driving Law, a podcast by Kyla Lee about all things related to the rules of the road.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Driving Law. I am Kyla Lee at Acumen Law, and with me, my co-host, Paul Doroshenko.
Glad to be with you, Kyla.
Yeah, if I sound completely discombobulated in this podcast, it's because I literally just logged off from Teams after making an hour-long argument and went straight into this.
Yeah, in less than 2 minutes.
Just shift your mindset to podcast style, not court style.
I've been sitting on the edge of my chair here waiting. Okay, the moment she stops, I've got to have everything ready to be able to record.
I could hear you setting up, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's what I was going to suggest, but I couldn't because I was in court.
Yes, you were in court, and yesterday I was driving around the province with snow tires. As of October 1st, if you're on a highway in British Columbia, you got to have snow tires, you got to have chains if you're a big truck, and if you don't have snow tires, you've got to have chains if you're driving a regular vehicle. October 1st.
And you can be pulled over for the purposes of police inspecting your compliance with the snow tire regulation at any point, because they can pull you over without any reason to check that your vehicle's mechanically fit and in compliance with the Motor Vehicle Act.
So if they decide to pull you over for that purpose, they can make a mandatory breath demand without any reason as well, because they're pulling you over for a lawful purpose.
Yep. So just get your snow tires. Saves you problem.
Well, because it's a quick stop if you've got your snow tires, right? They walk up, they see the snowflake on the side.
See the snowflake.
I bought snow tires for our distillery van and drove to Whistler yesterday. And I'm back after a nice trip. And I will tell you, one of the reasons I moved to British Columbia is to have those beautiful drives. Most of the time over the summer, I followed on TikTok all these people driving to Whistler and how awful it was, stuck in traffic. If you drive in the middle of the week, not so bad on a rainy day in October.
Well, so updates on the strike situation.
It's all BC this week.
It's all BC. So I guess Friday last week we just filed or were filing our petition to the court challenging everything.
You've had all sorts of developments this week. I don't even know what they are. So
yeah. So basically where things are at right now is the petition's been filed and served. And we've had a lot of back and forth with the government lawyers because we're concerned about people not having their driver's licenses in the interim. So we've been, for our clients, able to successfully negotiate a process where there may be some consideration given to a temporary license in circumstances of hardship, but it's a process. There's a lot of work. Yeah, you got to ask. You got to provide evidence. It's a whole thing. It's a lot of work, but that's what anyway we can do.
You got to hope a manager looks at it.
Yeah.
But I think they're looking at it as going to be a very,
Well, they're going to check the driving records too. Yeah.
So
yep, looking good. And as far as the petition itself, we have agreed for the time being to hold in the interim of all of this strike action taking place, hold the legal hearing in abeyance, and potentially also the filing of a response by the government lawyers. And the reason why is because we in administrative law, of course, you have to raise your arguments with the tribunal, and the tribunal's reasons have to be considered.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is as I've told you already, I think this is a method of them trying to sidestep it because the tribunal's already missed its opportunity, and I don't think...
Right, but we have to tell them that and then get their reasons for it. And I think that's the appropriate course.
Well, I know it's going to be the appropriate course, but the court in the end, by the time we get into court, is going to say that it doesn't really matter anymore because the strike's over.
No, because if people were denied procedural fairness or if the tribunal lost jurisdiction, you can't just... Once you've lost jurisdiction, you've lost jurisdiction.
You are more optimistic about that than I am. I just don't have the same.
Well, we've already raised it.
I know. There's nothing we can do. Like there's, we have to go through that process. I'm just not confident about the court giving the remedy. I think it's going to be the appropriate remedy when that day comes.
Well, I don't think
because I think they're going to sidestep it and say it's a moot point.
I disagree. And remember, judicial review is concerned with the reasonableness of the decision. So if we hold this in abeyance pending them getting back to work and getting a decision on it, we can also amend to address the tribunal's reasons And then if they come to an unreasonable conclusion that they had jurisdiction or that they didn't violate procedural fairness by doing things without permitting a person the opportunity to be heard on them when those actions affected them and they had rights that flew from statute, which I don't know how you can make a reasonable argument
against
wasn't procedurally unfair. There you go.
I hear you, but I also remember the decision from the court when the IRP scheme was struck down about whether or not there would be a remedy, and the court saying no remedy. And so that's...
In that case, the court said no remedy because this is an unprecedented situation. And BCGEU strikes are rare, but not unprecedented. They have happened before, and they have had shutdowns to this extent before.
I would love to share your confidence. I know you are the absolute defender of the rule of law at all times, whereas I have...
We should make a t-shirt that says, I heart rule of law.
We could do that. I am more cynical.
Fair.
And although I recognize the importance of our justice system, and I am very thankful that we do have a justice system, I think there's a lot of room for improvement.
So, strike.
So that's issue number one.
That's not the only strike.
Well, we've got strike update with that. We've got another issue with respect to paying your tickets.
Yes. And I actually have no idea whether this is strike related or not. But what's happened, yesterday I was in traffic court, made a deal on a case, went and appeared before the justice, got my client some time to pay. And the justice said, okay, well, your client's not going to receive a notice in the mail. And I kind of laugh because, yeah, there's no mail, right? Strike. That's a separate issue, separate driving law related strike. And then they said, but you'll need to tell your client that they can no longer pay their ticket at ICBC. ICBC is not accepting payments for traffic tickets. And it is not clear, and I made like the surprised and confused face, and the judicial justice said this was just a memo we got today. So they don't know any more information. We got all the information. We don't know if it's because of the strike action or whether this is like a restructuring. Apparently you can pay your tickets at Service Canada, which is wild.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah. So
I would guess that this is 100% strike action, that there's nobody in the government at that end to process it. If it's done at ICBC, when you do a lot of things at ICBC, you're standing there at ICBC in the counter and there's somebody in Victoria working at the other end, basically. And the person at ICBC is almost the in-between. They're the one taking the money. They're the one, taking the ticket and confirming who you are.
Yeah.
But somebody at the superintendent of motor vehicles or somewhere in an ICBC office is basically doing the other end of it. Service BC is probably the same thing, but I suspect in those cases they're just trying to drive it away because it's too much for them to handle right now at ICBC locations. So hoping that people will go into the court where BC government workers are still working, but
who knows? BCGEU strikes have shut down courts before.
Oh, I know.
So, no, the other reason I think you're correct that this is probably strike related is when you deal with your ticket in court, as opposed to when you were first issued your ticket and you go in and pay it, it's a different system. So the ticket gets entered into the system. The superintendent of motor vehicles essentially takes jurisdiction over the handling of it once it's filed in dispute. That's why if you dispute a ticket and the ticket's a nullity, you get a letter from the superintendent canceling the ticket, not a letter from ICBC.
Yeah, and traffic tickets, there's the traffic ticket dispute center. They do the scheduling and everything like that. I'm sure nothing's being scheduled right now. I bet they're part of the job action.
If they were, we wouldn't know because we're not getting letters in the mail.
We're not. And that's another thing. So who knew that postal strike was a driving law issue? We've talked about it previously, but we keep thinking about the implications of it. So much is mailed to you when it comes to notices from the government about your driving record, renewing your license, renewing your insurance.
Yep.
Which, of course, is a government thing in BC, and notices that you are prohibited from driving or are facing a prohibition. So in BC, you can get a notice of intent to prohibit. You got a ticket, it's on your record, the government looks at your driving record, they say, you know what, you've got a second cell phone ticket in 18 months and we're going to prohibit you from driving for 3. And you've got 21 days from the date of the letter to write in. So what happens when that letter is sitting at a Canada Post office somewhere and cannot be delivered?
That letter's sitting at Road Safety BC and nobody's picking it up.
And I know damn well that they're not mailed the same day that they're printed. And I've called them out on this many times on the podcast or on the blog. I used to write about it because it was such a chronic thing. People would get the letter. I just got it today. Yeah, got 5 days. And you can see that it was mailed 4 days after it was printed or 6 days after it was printed or something like that, which felt to me like a vindictive response after I had thrust them into doing part of that process back in like 2001. But in any event, so it's an issue of it being stuck in the mail. Yeah.
Sounded like Roy.
It sounded like he's right outside the door.
Yeah.
We're just recording the podcast, you guys.
Yeah, so that's one thing, the driving prohibition letters, but you also have people who are getting their notices of their traffic court hearings. Like for us, there's probably going to be a simple workaround, which is the violation ticket center. They already contact us to schedule the hearing. They're just going to email us.
We know most of them. We know most of them already.
Well,
like
we know
well, no, yeah, that's true. But no, I mean, we know what our hearings are for the next 2 months, right?
Yeah.
They're not mailing us something that's coming in the next 2 months, but there will be people who it's stuck in the mail, their hearing notice, who will ultimately, potentially miss court as a result of it if this drags on. Now, interestingly, we're seeing the provincial government adjourn our hearings, and they picked a date to adjourn our hearings to, thinking that the strike is going to be resolved by that time or something.
Looking increasingly unlikely.
Which is looking increasingly unlikely, although we've heard of a lot of escalation that is likely to come. For example, the BC Ferries is looking at doing a sympathy days of striking.
I find that hilarious.
It's a driving law issue.
I mean, BC Ferries is part of the transportation network in British Columbia. It is, you drive onto the ferry, you drive off the ferry, and it connects a highway. Like Highway 17 is connected by BC Ferries.
Now, interestingly, that was an essential service in the pandemic, so it had to keep running. BC Liquor was an essential service in the pandemic, and it had to keep running. And we deal with BC Liquor now. And we're waiting.
You can't keep people sober in a pandemic.
They're waiting for approval on a bunch of products, and there's no reply over there. The managers are not going through it. I'm writing to somebody this afternoon about that. But we can see these things that, despite the fact that they were considered essential services in the pandemic, are not being legislated back in BC. The NDP is not enthusiastic when it's supposed to be the party of the working man to legislate the workers back in any field. But it happens in the court. I think we could see it.
I think they also, though, want to avoid back to work legislation because they know there is a constitutional challenge to that, and there would probably be an injunction granted.
I don't know. I mean, the status quo is what is usually upheld in injunction applications, and the status quo is people working, not striking.
The status quo is people striking right now.
No, that's the status quo generally is people working. So
you send them back to work in unfavorable conditions, then what's the point of the right to strike? Sorry, I'm really in like argumentative mode right now.
Yeah, I know you are. Forcing people to work is akin to slavery.
Okay.
So
Canada Post strike also affects other things. People's ability to dispute their tickets. Because what are the ways you can dispute a ticket? One, in person at ICBC or Service BC or a courthouse. But that presumes you're anywhere near one of those places. You might live in Bella Bella and not have access to resources like that.
Courthouse is open.
Yeah, or you might live in a circuit court location if you're in Elkford.
And so what happens if the courthouse is closed and you can't mail in your dispute?
Because there's no Canada Post.
And there's no Service Canada around. I mean, they're not union, they're all agents. But, there will be people who will have a fairly valid excuse for missing their 30 days.
The only other way is online, but the BCGU has been increasingly shutting down your online options for disputing things.
With very little information online about it. So I would say if you have a ticket and your 30 days are coming up, on top of, maybe taking some other steps, you can still make a photocopy of it, right on the photocopy. I dispute this ticket, drop it in the mail to bag 3510 there on the address on the back of the ticket. Because, you take a picture of yourself, put it in there's no mailboxes. They've already collected all the mailboxes off the street here, I've noticed, but that's managers driving around in vans picking up mailboxes. But if you can drop it in the mail somewhere, there's a chance that you can argue down the road that a deemed conviction shouldn't have happened.
I think you should. So here's the legal advice portion of the podcast. Number 1, go right now to your car, pull out your insurance documents and look at when your insurance expires and put in your calendar for a week before then. Put a bunch of reminders in your phone, insurance expiring. Same with your driver's license. Pull it out, look at when it expires. Make sure you're prepared to deal with that in advance, especially because with the driver's license, where do you get the actual license? Where does it come from?
Yeah, it's
the mail.
It's in the mail. So yeah, you may not have your license, but even if you renew it.
Number 3 on my list of legal advice is here. Number 3 legal advice is if you have a ticket that you haven't disputed yet and you can't get to any one of those locations, do what you just said. Yep. Put it in the mailbox. Make a note of the fact that you did it. Take a video of yourself doing it. Photo of yourself, outside the mailbox as you're depositing it. Just make sure that you're creating a record of that and monitor your driver.
There's a court registry around.
Go there.
Try and do it there.
Or, hire a lawyer.
Hire us. We do it. We do it every day. That's half the reason we have an office directly beside the courthouse in Richmond is so people can walk over to dispute tickets.
Until the courthouse is on.
Until the court shuts down, at which point we'll just drop a photocopy through the door with a date on it.
Yeah. And then there was another piece of legal advice I was going to give related to that, but I forget.
Yeah, if you don't renew your insurance on your vehicle, I don't think that will be any excuse that you didn't get the notice of it. So that is probably the number 1 consideration. If you end up with a ticket because your license is expired, that's not the end of the world. But you may also not have a defense to that because it's right there on your license. The one thing that you might be able to do is if for some reason a deemed conviction happens despite your attempts to dispute the ticket, you might have an argument there. But the other things, just avoid getting yourself in that situation.
Yep. Take precautions now.
Yep.
Especially because we don't know how many services we're going to lose before things get better.
And we do know they're scheduling hearings. Like maybe the government plans on making a great offer on the 12th or something, but that's their plan and why they're putting hearings to certain dates. But I suspect this could go on. And for reasons that you've explained to me, actually, that I won't go into. I suspect this could drag on.
Yeah. So with all of that, I feel like, you know what I feel like? I feel like
the ridiculous driver of the week
is literally the state of labor in this province. I mean, it's not our ridiculous driver, but it does feel that way. Like, it's just so ridiculous. You can't pay your tickets. You can't deal with your IRPs. You can't, there's other things. You can't
something in the mail. You can't get notice of anything that you need to deal with that comes from them. And all this mail related and government office related driving law rather than actual drivers on the highway and roads, which is normally the thing of our day-to-day work.
But we do have a ridiculous driver of the week, and since it is the first podcast of spooky season, for those who don't know, spooky season starts in October for obvious reasons.
Okay. No, I mean, you lectured me on this earlier today, so I'm not gonna.
We got a flag to fly for Halloween, and Paul's like, "What's a Halloween flag?" Like, it's a flag for Halloween.
We hung our pirate flag for Talk Like a Pirate Day, and it was up for a few days, and there was some other pirate flags showed up around town.
Yeah.
Glad to see it.
Good. Anyway, our ridiculous driver is a driver in the Czech Republic.
And this is so
He's a phantom driver.
So this phantom driver has been seen on the highways in the Czech Republic since 2019, flying by other vehicles at incredible speeds. And what was he driving? An F1 car, a Ferrari labeled up F1 car on the highway. on a license plate or insurance or anything, just flying on the highway in the Czech Republic. Of course, these are nice European highways that you can drive on pretty fast to start with.
Yeah.
Been doing this for some time. You wondered how Batman was able to drive around without ever getting pulled over. Well,
people are like, a Batmobile drove by me. And what do you
nobody
mean?
believes.
Yeah.
Well, this had been captured several times on various different cameras.
AI generated.
Yeah. But the drivers always had a helmet on and a full suit, like the full suit in an F1 car, driving the barreling down the highway. All of a sudden you look in your mirror and there's something coming up at you, at 300 kilometers an hour. I guess you get out of the way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I like it. I just keep thinking, in speed he drove by me, a racing car.
Well, he's been caught. And this finally just happened recently. I guess there was helicopters and multiple police.
Dozens of police and helicopters. It was a whole.
He was stopped in his driveway of his house. Ready to park the car, still in his outfit.
You'd think that if he was driving around in this F1 car, dressed up like an F1 driver, his neighbors would be like, "Oh, I know that dude."
Yeah, I can't believe he wasn't ratted out. Like, how does he get on the highway? How does he get back off the highway? Like, I don't know how he managed to do this. And how does he not have a power garage door opener or a bat cave or some such thing? Like, I just don't understand. But he's done this for some time. Like, every once in a while, this F1 car would show up on the highway, flying down the highway. And so now they put the resources in and caught him. But they've recognized, or at least he's calling them out saying, well, you can never say that I did it any other time because he's the helmet and so forth. So,
I don't know. The inference is
pretty solid.
Fair. Would you let someone drive your $600,000 car?
What is all this? What is all this attention about for a traffic infraction?
He should listen to the Driving Law podcast to see why traffic infraction is so significant.
Exactly. Anyway, I just thought that was hilarious when I saw it. I saw a mention of it a couple of years ago, and I think I saw some video on TikTok or something, YouTube. But now the phantom F1 driver in the Czech Republic has been caught
inside his driveway. Okay.
I think that
I've ruined the podcast.
You've squeezed everything you can out of that.
Okay. Well, that's our podcast. If you need to reach us related to a driving law issue, or you are confused about the ways in which the strike is impacting you and your driving rights, you can give us a call at 604-685-8889 or find us online at vancouvercriminallaw.com and tune in next week for another exciting episode of Driving Law.